Guys, this is what out of this is what out of two of the videos I said on. If you pretty much watched what if Deku was the main hentai protagonist video already, well, it's coming out right. Well, I don't know when it's going to be done, but basically this is going to be one out of the two of the 18 only. Well, 18 only. And this is going to be a new one given by a subscriber of an idea that he suggested, which I said, oh, I don't know about that, but I said, all right, fuck it, let's do it. This is going to be what if Deku was a succubus. Now, Deku to be a succubus, I wanted to make him as a male, but then again, like, you know, like a succubus. So there's many definitions of a succubus. Like a succubus is a person who drain life force and leave you for like a skeleton, and then some succubus eat you come and drain your life force like that, and then there's other succubus that do other ways, but we're going to make Deku a female in this. We're going to make him a female in this. So this whole entire outfit is going to be basically Deku. Basically female Deku. Now, this is an 18 only. No kids allowed. This is going to be very sexual, very different in any way, and a lot of shit will happen. So if your brain can't handle this, by the gods, just leave this whole what if video right now. But if you can't handle this, you're a goat and I'm a goat too, and let's walk with this journey together. We'll start with female Deku being born. Naturally, the doctors, takes out the baby and let's say the father was a succubus. The father was a succubus, and Inko, fell in love with the succubus guy. I can't really say his name, but he was a succubus, and the genetics switched. She, and Deku basically, gets a motivation. So basically, Deku's born with baby horns by the side. Baby horns by the side, and the doctor say it's a female girl, and the doctor see it's a tail, and they see it having a tail saying and little baby wings, and they're saying, huh, must be a malformation, quirk or something like that. So as she's growing up, female Deku, a lot of encounters have happened due to being a succubus. She basically her friend is basically Bakugo. Girls and boys be around female Deku, but basically girls and boys basically lust lust over female Deku because she has that hormones like that scent of a succubus like that like seducing you. So she and female Deku, she doesn't know that she is seducing them or anything like that. So basically as she like plays with Bakugo and stuff, she always like play like tag and stuff or like rough like tackles or anything. And she basically one time tackles Deku, and I mean not Deku, Bakugo, and this is where Bakugo gets tackled. He says, "Ow, that hurts," and she basically and he start bleeding on the side of his forehead, and she basically licks it and says, "Oh, my bad, you're right," and and he start blushing and all that stuff, and and start getting up and running away, running away, while the girls are just like, you know, while the girls are just like running up and seeing if Deku's alright, and she basically like grabs the hand and basically says, yeah, she's doing alright and stuff, and basically hugs him, and they start blushing, and they start getting that wet stuff in their pants, and the young, and they start crying and run away, and she doesn't know why they're crying to run away, and the doctors go check in. they started to figure out like why is they getting this hormone at an early age, like because it's because like succubus Deku is her like manifestation of succubusness can like really, her hormones is her things is kicking in, she doesn't know, but her wings and stuff. But we're gonna skip later on a couple years, and we're gonna start with them being in high school. Now, this is gonna be started on me. We're just gonna, get some extra details about female succubus Deku. She's basically much, older. Oh well, a little bit like they're all like in their like middle school thing, but nonetheless, this is her whole entire outfit she wears to school. She wears to school and stuff with the whole wings and stuff and horns, and she wears this whole outfit. And she doesn't wear the heart necklace. Well, well, no, she doesn't wear the heart necklace. She basically, goes to school at this tire outfit like this. Now, the boys, they be, they be fawning over her, and the girls, they be jealous, but at the same time, they fawn over her too because the girls, they want some of the type of that forbidden apple of female Deku. Now, Bakugo and female Deku are basically friends. Well, best friends, you could say, because female Deku has a quirk. Like the succubus is, a pacifist thing and all that and stuff, but her quirk is kind of unique. It's she has kind of a beneficent quirk of her father's, and because her father was a succubus, but he also had like a quirk too, and his quirk was like unique. It was like kind of like fire. He can create fire, like fire things, not like Todoroki's dad. Like he shoots out fire. No, his thing is like he can summon fire, like unique fire, like ice fire, healing fire that can heal you, or like fire that can just like accelerate things or destroy like a lot of things, or like fire that can like basically like if you touch it, it's extremely cold and you can turn to ice by or get below sub-zero. So he basically had the unique fire things, and I think I would call the quirk, because I'm making this up. I'm basically gonna call the quirk fire manipulation, or justice fire, or yeah, justice fire. And he can basically turn the fire into electric fire, so it burns you but it shocks you at the same time, or like earth fire, that like the earth, like when you step on the ground, it feels like goddamn lava, but it's really like fire, and the earth can like gobble you up, and you be burning at the same time of getting crushed by earth. So, and we all know Inko has like telekinesis, so the telekinesis and the fires merge in together. So fire, like if a fire touches you, she can pretty much see all your memories and stuff and see what you like, what your dislikes, or she can pretty much just look at you in the eyes and read your mind, or just read your mind without looking at you in the eyes, because it's an enhanced version of the quirks combined. But that's the recap of the two quirks. We're going to continue. So Succubus Deku basically is going to school and stuff, and the teachers and the teachers, staff, including the principal, they don't say nothing to female Deku about this outfit, because at the end of the day, they know the father, but the father, he's more like out of town. He does like he's a hero. He's a hero, but he's like they call him like the legendary lust god. But some of the like adults call him like the coochie slayer, the coochie slayer, or the lover of all both, because sometimes he be lusting on boys and girls, but he only does that to get some of their life force, because he's very powerful, but he doesn't take all their life force. He just need a couple some, to just mind his day. But the teachers, they don't say anything to female Deku, succubus female Deku, because they get a bulge and boner, so they think like, oh, we're like, they think they're pedophiles or like they feel more like they don't feel guilty at all about it, but like it's just that and basically and basically, the principal, a principal is like a young male, like principal, but like he gets a bone for her and stuff. So like when like Deku comes to school with like outfits like these, the principal, he basically just let it pass and stuff, and he also like gives her presents and stuff and saying, and she's extremely smart. She's intelligent, and she's good at like sports and stuff. But like the principal just gives her the extra treatment because he wants some of that type of the forbidden apple, you know. And Deku, female Deku succubus knows what she's doing. She teasing around with the teachers and stuff. You know, always like eat an apple in front of them or like whisper in their ear. And the teachers, they just bust a nut. but skipping on that, she comes to school basically, sitting next to Bakugo and saying, "Oh hey, Kanshan," Bakugo, he like he knows, like he doesn't know, but he just like he's not like attracted by it. So like sometimes he'd be attracted by it, but sometimes he don't. So he just be like, "What the hell you want, nerd?" And, he's still like an asshole, but like he's not aggressive asshole. He's still like cool with her. Like he's cool with her and stuff. So and she basically says, "Oh, well, that's rude." And she basically called him a dickhead. And, they start laughing and having a conversation. You know, some of the school thinks like Bakugo and like Deku are together, but they're not. They're not in any means necessary. But you know, Deku's basic. Female Deku, succubus, or I'm just gonna say the succubus Deku is basically uh doing her work and stuff. Doing the hero thing and all that stuff, and she's basically we're gonna start, and we're gonna say one time an encounter of villains has happened. And Bakugo, he's well, no, we say Bakugo basically goes in a factory to fight a couple, like three boys into this factory abandoned building, and it's like a whole game jump. Now this is where you think Bakugo will be fucked, but no. This is where Deku follows. Succubus Deku follows him, and she sees that Bakugo is basically getting over him, and she basically says, "Hey, what are y'all dickheads doing to my friend, to my best friend?" They basically look and they're saying, "Damn, that's a hot girl." They're basically around her, basically saying saying all that all that sexual stuff. She basically blushes, say, "Oh, stop." And, they're basically basically all blushing and all that, and saying like you know this man been doing a lot of things, and she says, and, she basically asks, what basically have he been like doing? They basically saying he been like kicking our asses or like all that shit, and she basically says, well, I'm gonna kick ass, and they start laughing, saying, you a girl, she does a roadhouse kick and kicks one of them, send them flying out the window, while she beats the shit out of the rest of them, because she this female succubus Deku knows karate. She knows all the fighting techniques because her father like knew that she has like the heretics of the succubus, like the whole genetics, but he doesn't want her to like get one day if her ability goes out of hand and she can't control it, and some like guy does some sex with her, she's like, and she enjoys it, and she turns into a mindless succubus who kills a lot of people, and sucks them dry and all that shit by sexing them and stuff. Like he doesn't want that to happen, so he wants her to be like strong to defend herself and also control her thing, so she doesn't kill anyone. So, but basically, she basically whoops all their asses and stuff, and steps on one of their necks with a hill, with the hill, and basically, asks Baku if he's alright, and he gets up, spits out blood, says, "Yeah, I'm alright, but you didn't have to come to save my ass." And she laughs and basically says, "Yeah, yeah," and they basically head home. Why, she's basically, uh, and I say she's floating while hugging him, and basically, and he blushes, says, "Why you doing this?" And she basically saying, "Shut up, I'm healing you." And she used the fire and heals him, started healing his wounds and stuff. And they start talking, heading home. Now we're gonna start with the starting enemy. Now this is where the teacher, female teacher, basically, comes in. She blushes, you know, blushes while looking at. She looks at all the students, and she looks at Pacific succubus Deku, and she basically blushes and says, uh, what do y'all want to do? And she laughs and says, "Oh, what I'm kidding, y'all all want to be heroes." And and like all the students are like cheering and stuff, and Bakugo says this shit. Female Deku says, female succubus Deku says, "Now, Kanshan, you can't just say that all garbage. They all have the unique abilities. They just need to know how to manifest it and make it in the right way to become a hero." And Succubus Deku is like, how can I say, the head of the school, you could say. Like she didn't suck no pickles or anything to get what she got. It's just by her intelligence and her strength and her looks. But she could have done that to get head of the school. But she's also like the class president. The students, they take that by heart. And the boys, they're definitely blushing. Holding hands, doing the heart shape, saying, "Yes, that's our battle president for us." Yeah, and the girls are definitely fawning over her too, and some of them pass out, gushing their pants and all that. And Bakugo says, "All right, whatever," and the teacher looks and it says only one person, and you know, uh, it says only Bakugo because this succubus that knows that she wants to be the number one hero, but she's just confused of like what she wants to do because she just doesn't think her quirk is strong enough to like really like do stuff. So she's basically um getting up and start walking out of class. And Bakugo is mad, like getting pissed off, saying like why are you like, I thought you wanted to be a hero. Why did you not sign up for UA? She basically doesn't say anything and walks out. The principal, comes in, with roses in her hand, like in his hand, basically, giving it to her and basically, saying, "Oh, is there anything you need for before you leave? Like, do you want to get like a guaranteed in the interest of the UA school and stuff?" And she says, "No, thank you." She basically, gives him a kiss on the forehead and he passes out. But she basically laughs and just start walking while holding the roses in her hand. And she started walking down school. She already grabs her book bag and stuff. Well, her purse, you could say. And she basically is walking, and she goes under the bridge. Yeah. Now this is where the Sludge villain attacks, and I'm gonna say this is a female Sludge villain. Well, a different female Sludge villain. It's not a disgusting kind. It's like a female Sludge villain, and she basically comes in. She basically comes in and wraps herself around succubus female Deku. Now this is the 18 part comes in. She basically wraps her around and she basically absorbing. She basically and female succubus Deku has a whole pheromone scent, and her body is like, let's say this. Imagine you like doing it with a girl, and her body, and her whole body, including her vagina, and it's or like so soft that you bust in that instantly, or like you come instantly, and you keep coming in her and stuff, like in those hentai things. Yeah, that's basically like female succubus Deku. Like if a guy or like a female like basically have sex where they basically will come instantly and feel like they're in like paradise and stuff, and they can't stop nutting until she can like cancel it out, like make them stop nutting, or like cancel it out, or just make them keep coming until they die. So the female succubus goes around, she wraps herself all around, and then this is where she's thinking about and I'm gonna say this female sludge villain is, she before she like her quirk like got destroyed, she was a kind of a female rapist to rape boys and girls, not like little kids or anything, just like boys and girls or men or women. And she basically says, she basically, put one of her like things in, you know, female Deku's vagina, and she basically, does it, and just where female, Deku, does a little bit of moan because, eh, like this is like. Like I said, this is not female succubus Deku first rodeo. Like she done it with guys and girls before, and I'm not saying she's not a whore, she's not a slut. It's just because of her like her ancestor side of the succubus. So and that's why she's like incredibly strong and stuff because the sucky sucky and the dry sucky sucky and the power and all that. Now this is where the Sludge villain basically she instantly comes and she start coming and coming and stuff, and and she's basically asking like what did she do to her, and she's basically smiling, and she basically touches the female Sludge villain, and she's basically coming more, and she like saying, "Oh, make it stop," and she says, I can make you explode, but just you keep coming, and this the Sludge villain, she just keeps nutting and nutting, and she can't stop, and she formed, and then like I say this that this succubus female uh Deku can like more like make you like go back into a normal human form state. So the such like can pretty much fix your quirk so she can do her thing to get more power. So basically, she fixed the Sludge villain quirk and makes it perfectly all normal. And the Sludge villain, like she transformed back into her like female body, and she just started grabbing herself and keeps nutting and stuff. And this is where All Might comes in and say, "I am him," and like he just sees, and he just looks and he's like, "What the?" And he sees a naked Sludge villain like filling herself and nutting, and and uh and pretty much a girl with bat wings with bat wings on her back and horns and a tail, basically kneeling down and just basically smiling. And he says, "What the hell is going on here?" And this is where female succubus Deku looks and says, "Oh, hey, All Might, it's you." And she runs and hugs him, and it affects everybody. It doesn't matter if you're the pure heart; it affects you. And All Might start blushing. He gets a bulge and he's like saying, "Oh," and he just and she basically says, "Oh, this is the Sludge villain. Was you looking for a villain like a Sludge? This is her." And and she's basically showing, and All Might basically says, "Oh, this is her." He's and she's saying, make it stop," and she says, "All right," and she just like basically snaps her finger and basically makes it stop, and she passes out. Now this is where All Might, uh, he basically grabs her and basically taking her to the police station, and this is where All Might asks, and no, this is All Might asking what is female Deku name, and she says her name, and Masuka Madokia and stuff, and does like a heart shape and blows at All Might, which All Might is like blushing at, but he's basically talking and basically talking to her and stuff, and basically talks to her and stuff, and all that, and this is where she explains her two quirks, and and All Might is saying, "Don't you have a third quirk? Like, what was that?" He was saying, and she said, and she basically explains to him like, "Oh no, that's from my other side of my family, but that's a secret." She doesn't tell, but she's basically saying, she's basically start floating and start about to fly, and she says, "See you later, see you tomorrow, All Might," and she basically flies away, and All Might saying, and he's basically saying, "Could she be?" And and he says, "All right," and he's about to leap off to the Sludge villain wakes back up, and switch into, since she has the ability to switch into a sludge and and back into human form, she basically goes to like try to get away from All Might and attack someone. To do that, pervert shit, rapist shit, you could say. And this is where Bakugo gets captured. Now, this is where female succubus Deku hears Bakugo screaming for help, and this is where he's basically throwing down explosions and stuff and screaming while the female such villain is like raping him, you could say, sticking one going in his pants and sucking him dry at the other hand, kind of messing with his butt. 18 only, so you could say this is where female Deku comes in and sees Bakugo's in trouble, and she's basically saying, "You don't never," and she basically says, "You don't never learn, don't you?" And this is where the female Sludge villain says, "Get the hell away from me," and I kill him, and this is where she says, "Well, that's my best friend you have there, and I'm going to have to really destroy you now." And she's ready to say, "Wait, I get off him," and she's basically turning back into human form, all naked and stuff, and why all the heroes and people sees her naked and stuff, and basically like everybody, all the heroes and stuff, they getting their boners and stuff, seeing the Sludge villain all naked and stuff, and and some of the kids are getting their eyes covered because of that, and this is where female Deku says, "Now good," and she snaps her finger back, and what happened at the under the bridge happens again. It's because once female Deku once you touch her, you basically under her spell for the rest of your life, so she can do whatever it wants to you. She can fawn herself, and then you will feel the thing, or if she fingers herself, you will feel the finger, and you basically nut and stuff. Or she can just make you just feel your body in height and stuff, kind of like drugs. So you it's kind of like a drug thing. You kind of can't stop feeling yourself until she snaps her finger back. So the Sludge feeling hits the ground, start fondling herself, fingering herself and stuff, and the heroes are saying, "Oh my God, get the villain and stuff." They're covering the villain up, trying to cover it, and the Sludge villain saying, "Make it stop. It feels too good and stuff," and version and stuff, and all the kids and everybody's just saying, "Oh my God," and all that, and adults and stuff start getting the boner, and including the teachers or store people, they started feeling themselves and stuff, because it once one person do it, the aura fills around people and stuff, and she snaps her finger to stop the circle. She basically passes out and gets arrested and put away. And, everybody doesn't know what the hell just happened, and all they know is just this one female comes in and just snaps her finger, and the Sludge villain just instantly but she basically grabs Bakugo and she basically flies away. Bakugo's giving praise and stuff, saying, "Yeah, my injuries stuff." Now, this is where All Might already saw the stuff, and stops female Deku, and he asks her to be does she want to be a hero, and to be the number one hero, and she started thinking and says, yeah, and All Might basically says, "All right, here." He basically explains the whole quirk thing and stuff, and this is where she gets off one. And I tell you what it's going to do for her and the benefits. And kind of not a benefit, you could say. Now, well, it all depends of how I do it, but basically, it takes away his hair, explains and stuff, and and she says, okay, and she basically eats it, but she eats it and she started she started doing it all sexually, and All Might is blushing and yelling and saying, "Can you please stop that?" She started smiling and eats the hair, but she was doing it all sexually and stuff, because she heads home, and All Might says meet him at the beach and stuff, and she's walking home until Deku, until Bakugo basically comes in and basically stops her and says I didn't Like he start getting mad and like yelling at her and stuff, and until she like flies over, well, runs over to him and punch him in the gut, and she said that's for yelling at me because I saved your ass, and she said, and then she kissed him on the lips and saying, that's for me being worried about you. You're my best friend. Like I would never let you die or anything. And Bakugo blushes and says, well, I didn't need your help, and but he says thank you anyways, and he heads home, and she heads home too. Now the beach thing. Deku, she puts on uh well, I guess like a training outfit. Well, no, she basically has shorts. She basically has shorts, and she puts on a bikini, a bra, well, a cool sexy bikini bra. Nah, kind of like how can I say? She basically have the whole let's say Hinata form, but like the alternate universe Hinata, like the bad girl Hinata, basically, or should I say the mean Hinata? Basically, she has that entire, and she basically takes off the jacket. She has like the whole bra, like the whole bikini thing, and All Might basically tells the training and stuff, and she started doing the training and all that, and basically, you know doing the lips and all that. I say she completes in about 1.5 week, and you know she's all much stronger and stuff, and she has a little bit of a ab thing. She has a little bit of abs, not like a lot of abs, just like a little bit of abs. You could say, you can half see, you know, all my, basically, and I could say like due to like the quirk finally like adjusting itself, it gives her enhancement. So I say this: she gets a little bit of abs, she gets bigger boobs, bigger butt, her horns gets a little bit taller, her wings get much bigger, a little bit bigger, and her tail, a little bit longer, a little bit longer. But her formal thing of her succubus side, it has increased. So when you think like, oh, who's that girl blushing, all that and stuff, now it's a thing to make. Now she can make you forget about her, or she can make you remember her like every single day that you can't stop thinking about her. She can now make you instantly come in your pants without you touching you, and she can pretty much what else she can do? She can pretty much make you only think about her in dreams. She can pretty much like alter your dreams. She can also what she can do now? She can fly like in a longer distance now, so she doesn't need like a break to fly. Um, and her fire things, she can make them go massive, or she can make them go like the small to go in your bloodstream and burn your like to melt your insides. and and it goes for the ice things too, like all for the different fire things, including the green fire that heals you. She can like heals like any wound, including like all my like injury, which I should probably go back down. So basically, all my season transformation says, hey, he start, his nose bleed a little bit, and uh, Succubus Deku says, are you alright? And he basically says, yeah, I'm alright, and he basically, switched back to small plate, which this is the first time she's seeing it, and she basically says, "Oh my, what happened to you?" He basically explains the whole wound injury and stuff, and this is where she basically tells him to stand still. He says, "What are you doing?" And she basically uh has the fire, and she puts it on her lips, and she basically kissed the wound, and it start healing back. And it first is painful, but it start healing back, and it's perfectly healed. Now this is where All Might says, "Did you this?" And she explains it. It says, "Yeah." And he switched back to his regular All Might form, and but he realized he's not in his prime, so he started thanking her and stuff, and she says it alright. But All Might says, "Are you gonna be going to the UA thing?" And he start He started asking a question. She says yeah, because now she is more confident in her quirk and stuff, and confident that she has all since she has all for one now. Now, Alma explains to her about the full counting and stuff, but she kind of understands. But I'm gonna have her understanding in a different way. Uh, we start with her basically heading home, after the whole beach training, and she basically like all tired out. But her mom asks her, like, "Oh, will you help me cook and stuff?" And she agrees, and they start cooking and stuff because we're not gonna say, oh, it's like, oh, women only supposed to be in the house cooking and shit. No, like women in UA acting, they have jobs and they're officers, they're all that. But Deku likes female succubus. Deku likes cooking because she likes cooking for people and stuff. And one of her jobs, she said if she didn't become a hero, she would become a chef. But basically, she basically cooking and stuff, and her mom is basically like she's basically talking to her mom about like learning this full cowling and stuff, and she basically explains to her about the whole water thing, kind of like Bruce Lee, but like as they're cooking, and she learns about it and like learn about like it's not just in one spot, it's in your whole body, and she learns about it and she thinks, huh, maybe that's it. After she's done cooking, she heads out. She heads outside and she practices and she learns full count. Now she only can handle 80% of one for all. I mean, all for one. All for one? No, one for all. Okay? I know what you're saying. That's too broken. Well, because it's an 18 only broken, alright? But basically, she learns it and she has 100% full counting, but she also can handle 100% one for all. She goes to bed. She heads home. She heads back in the house and goes to bed. Next morning, she wakes up and I say Bakugo is basically outside waiting for her, and he basically uh gives her basically tells her that they're about to be late, and she laughs and says all right, and they start heading over there. This is where Bakugo says I'm gonna go ahead first, and she says all right. She started heading to the thing, and she almost falls. This is where Rakashan grabs she's about to Succubus Deku was almost about to float to catch herself until Urakushin touches her and basically form a bubble. But this is where Urakushin falls down and start wetting herself because of remember the touching and stuff. So she start following herself and trying to like stop, and she's like can't get enough, and she's basically moaning and stuff, and some of the kids are about to turn into uh succubus Deku stops her finger and stops it, and and this is where the bubble thing pops, and she lands and she basically asks Urakushin and she's alright, and Urakushin has the heart thing. She says yeah, I'm alright, and she says she doesn't know what came over, and she basically female Deku says it's alright, and she basically walks away. uh Now everything else happens the same. The nerd with glasses uh basically calls out Deku and Bakugo and female Deku is basically talking to each other, and this is where female Deku basically looks at him with like kind of a lustful but scary tone stare, and basically says, "If you don't shut up, I might have you I might have you dead. I might have you in a pleasurable death." And he basically says what, but he gets that like he basically start nutting himself in a comfortable way, and he basically says I have to go to the bathroom. But everything has been the same. Deku, Succubus Deku passes everything, everything somewhat with ease. And she reaches high in the intelligence because, like I said, her father wanted her to be the smartest that she can be. So basically, but also it's also with the succubus genetics, so she's extremely intelligent. But basically, this is where the center, the 02 robot comes in. I mean, we haven't started that yet, but basically, the robot things, and he's basically explaining and stuff, and succubus. But he's also like looking at succubus Deku while he's explaining it, and having a little bit blushing and stuff. But this is where she's basically talking about Bakugo, saying if I get 100 points, like if I get 100 points, you owe me a date. And Bakugo says start blushing, and he starts saying, and he says why that? And she says I just want to toy with you. I don't know. You might want to see. And Bakugo says, well, if I win, you owe me 100 yen dollars, $100, and she agrees upon it. And they basically when he says already mark get set go, succubus Deku start flying, and she fly all past him, and they're saying, whoa, she can fly, all that, and she's basically flying, and she basically used the full cowling, and she started bashing robots left and right, and she's also using the fire. She merged the full cowling with the fire, and now the fire, it goes out much quicker. It's kind of like a bullet, so and it ricochets. So the fire bullets are like ricocheting left and right and stuff, hitting robots. Now she thinks she has enough points to get first, pretty much to get Bakugo on a date, and she's about to walk. She sees a 0-point robot. Now she sees a ricochet pretty much stuck in scuba field. This is where she comes in and she says, "Huh, all right," and she basically shoots the robot, and this is where she summons the rubble, the fire earth rubble, to summon the earth rubble, and she basically trapped the robot, which in lava, and the lava is like melting the robot and it explodes. Now this is where she basically comes in, undo the rubble, and acts she's alright, and this is where like I said, the touching and stuff. She kisses Succubus Deku and start cutting, like doing all this stuff, tongue kissing her, and she's basically grabbing her breasts and stuff and doing all that, and she says, "I'm sorry, I can't control myself," and she says it's alright, and this is where the nurse comes in and says, "Hey, no kissing on the battlefield," and she Uraraka gets up and says, "My bad," and she start walking away, and start running away, and female Deku smirks and just start walking away. Now we start with her being much at home, getting a letter that's and it says she reached first place and stuff, and Bakugo gets the letter saying he reached second place, and he's like shit, and she starts smiling, and she started open up the window yelling out, "Oh, Bakugo, or Kanshan today," and he says, "God damn it." And I'm gonna leave a part one of what if Deku was a succubus. Well, what if female Deku was a succubus? 18 only. Leave a like, subscribe, share your friends about this. you know the deal. I'm Keyshawn Uchiha, and thanks for watching. Oh, and one other thing, that third video I said, maybe not. But I'm Keyshawn Uchiha. Thanks for watching, and see ya.